Hello, welcome back to the Wire Podcast. I am your host, Ryan McCrary, and today I am extremely excited to talk about this year's Super Bowl, which was played on Sunday. It was a fantastic game. We have a lot to talk about. I'm going to talk about the game itself. I'm also going to talk about the halftime show performed by Rihanna, and I'm going to talk about the commercials, because that's always fun to talk about. And I'm not only going to talk about the game, I also want to talk about, Patrick Mahomes' legacy, how this game and how this victory for the Kansas City Chiefs impacts his legacy. I'll talk about that as well. And then I want to talk about Jalen Hurts too, because I think we saw a lot of good things from him in this game, and I want to talk about this season that he had, because I think what he did last night and what he has done all season deserves to be talked about. So let's not waste any time and dive right in and talk about the first half. Now, the first half was honestly not very exciting. I think this game was great. I really enjoyed this game, and I thought the ending was awesome. And the second half was fantastic. But for the majority of the first half, the Eagles were dominant, and they had a fantastic game plan, and they were executing it to perfection. And I think what the Eagles wanted to do going into this game is they wanted to dominate time of possession, and they wanted to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, because they had to know that they had the better roster going into this game. I mean, that was clear and obvious. I mean, if you listen to any podcast or any sports media show talking about this game, every single person who commented on this game heading into it, said that the Eagles had the better roster all around and had an advantage at basically every single position. And I think the Eagles knew that, and so I think they thought going into this game, the best chance they had to win this game was to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. And the way to do that is you run the ball so you can run a lot of time off the clock. And you perform well on third and fourth downs. And that's exactly what the Eagles did in the first half. They faced a lot of third downs, but they also did a great job of converting on third downs. And the Chiefs really struggled to get off the field on these later downs, and the Eagles took advantage of that, and they were able to really control the first half. I mean, they were up by 10 going into halftime. They were up 24-14 at the break, but the Chiefs had the ball for like 8 minutes in the first two quarters, and they only had one offensive touchdown. The other touchdown came on a scoop and score on a really weird play where Jalen Hurts just inexcusably dropped the ball and fumbled it, and then the Chiefs got a little bit lucky with the bounce. It was a favorable bounce for them. They were able to recover it cleanly and go in for the score. And on that play, it made it a 14-14 game. But other than that, the Eagles dominated the first half, and I thought, going into halftime, I was like, wow, the Chiefs might be in trouble. So in the first quarter, the Eagles scored first. They got the ball first. Had a nice solid drive to go up 7-0. Then the Chiefs responded to tie the score 7-7, and that's what the score was going into the second quarter. Then to start off the second quarter, the Eagles scored pretty quickly. Scored with around 8 seconds into the quarter to go up 14-7. And then after that, they got the ball back. Ended up fumbling, like I mentioned a second ago, where Nick Bolton was able to pick up the fumble and take it in for a touchdown to make the score 14-14. And then the Eagles were able to score 2 more touchdowns in the final 2.5 minutes of the first half to go up 24-14 at the break. I loved the Eagles' game plan. I loved how dominant their run game was in the first half. Their offensive line played extremely well, and if they ever had a third and short or a fourth and short, they were going for it, and they were super aggressive, and one thing that I think everyone noticed in this game was how unstoppable their QB sneaks were. I mean, if they got into a third and short or a fourth and short, they were like immediately going into a QB sneak, and the Chiefs could not stop it whatsoever. And it was like impossible for them to stop all night long. That was one thing that the Chiefs struggled with a lot in this game. I also got to give a huge shout out to Nick Sirianni for his aggressiveness in this game. There was he was super aggressive on fourth down, and I think that gave them a ton of advantages in the first half, and that was a significant advantage for them, being so aggressive and being so effective on these fourth downs. That gave them an edge, so I got to give a huge shout out to Sirianni for that. I do want to talk about that one play. So they had one drive where they got to a third down, and it was 3rd and 7. And they ran up the middle, and they were in Chiefs territory at this point. They ran up the middle on 3rd and 7, picked up 2 yards to make it a 4th and 5. I don't remember what the score was at this point, but on 4th and 5, the Eagles elected to go for it. And because they elected to go for it on 4th and 5, I think that they knew going into that third down play that they were going to go for it on 4th down. So that alone makes it weird that they decided to run up the middle on 3rd and 7. And then on 4th and 5, they decided to run a quarterback sneak. A quarterback draw. They ended up getting the first down, and I believe they were able to score on that drive. I may be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure they were able to score on that drive. But that play calling was insane. I like the aggressiveness. I'm always, in favor of being aggressive and aggressive play calling by coaches on 4th down. That was really, really aggressive. And honestly, I don't really like the play calling there. I thought the play calling was a little bit wild for that situation. You don't see a lot of coaches run it up the middle on 3rd and 7 and then decide to run a quarterback draw on 4th and 5. That's crazy. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I was dumbfounded by that decision to run a quarterback draw on 4th and 5. Thought that was crazy. But overall, I liked the Eagles' game plan in the first half. I thought their defense played extremely well. They were super, super effective on 3rd and 4th downs. Nick Sirianni was super aggressive. Their run game was awesome. Their offensive line was playing very well. And really, they played pretty perfectly for the entire first half, other than the fumble by Jalen Hurts, which led to a scoop and score. Other than that, it was basically a flawless first half for them. And at halftime, I was really concerned for the Chiefs because their defense really, really struggled. Their defense did not look very good at all in the first 2 quarters. They couldn't stop the Eagles. And, if their offense wasn't going to be perfect in the second half, I didn't think they were going to be able to win this ball game. It was looking pretty grim for them at halftime. Alright, now let's talk about the halftime show performed by Rihanna. A lot of people seemed to like it according to the reactions I saw on Twitter, and I liked it too. I thought it's pretty good. I like Rihanna. I like her music. And after her performance, I just started thinking, I was like, wow, like, the amount of hits that she has is kind of crazy. And she played a lot of great songs at halftime, like Diamonds, All of the Lights, Run This Town. And I thought her performance was pretty good. Her vocals were great. I know she was probably lip syncing, but still thought it was pretty good. The dancing was a bit odd, and I know she was pregnant, so I'm not saying her dancing was bad. I know because she was pregnant, I know that we can't expect her to do too much dancing. But I thought some of the choreography was a little bit like kind of cringy. Not gonna lie. But overall, I thought the performance was solid. I thought it was better than last year's halftime show with Eminem, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and Kendrick Lamar. I thought it was better than last year's. But a super solid halftime show. There was one point when they started playing All of the Lights where I thought that Kanye West might make an appearance. And if that happened, I think the stadium might have collapsed. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I was really thinking, like, is Rihanna really going to bring out Kanye West to perform at halftime with everything that he's done in the last couple of months with his anti-Semitic comments and stuff like that? Like, is she really going to do this Thankfully, she didn't. That would have been wild. I do wish that she brought out Jay-Z for the performance. That would have been really cool to see them two perform "Run This Town," because that's such a good song, and I think Jay-Z's verse really makes that song work. So I wish Jay-Z would have been a part of it, but overall, thought it was a solid halftime show. Thought it was pretty good, and according to people's reactions on Twitter, a lot of people seem to enjoy it as well. So, shout out to Rihanna, pretty good halftime show, which is pretty rare nowadays. I feel like we don't really see that many good halftime shows during the Super Bowl. So, it's nice to see Rihanna do a good job this year, and I'm glad that she did great. All right, let's move on to the second half. And this is where things completely change. The second half of this Super Bowl was like the complete opposite of the first half. In the first half, the Eagles had full control. They were dominant on defense. Their run game was unstoppable. They were super effective on third and fourth downs. And they basically were flawless in the first half. That was not the case in the second half. In the second half, the Chiefs completely flipped the script. And they were dominant in the second half. They took control. They were way more effective offensively. They were able to put together a lot of effective drives. And now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure the Chiefs scored on every single one of their second half possessions. And I mentioned a second ago that I thought at halftime that if they didn't play perfectly on offense in the second half, I didn't think they had a chance to win. And guess what happened? They basically were perfect offensively in the second half, and that's a big reason why they were able to come away with a W. But yeah, so in the third quarter, the Chiefs got the ball first. They ended up scoring early to make it a 24-21 game. And then near the end of the third quarter, the Eagles kicked a field goal to go up 27-21. And then at near the start of the fourth quarter, the Chiefs scored a touchdown to go up 28-27. This was a touchdown from Kadarius Toney. And then the Chiefs a few minutes later were able to score again to make it a 35-27 game. And they kicked an extra point to go up 8. And after the game, I saw someone mention on Twitter that the Chiefs probably should have gone for 2 right here. They ended up kicking an extra point to go up 8. And I started to think about this. I was like, really? Like, should they actually have gone up for 2? And I started to think about it, and I think that would have made a lot of sense for them to go for 2 here, because if they go for 2 and get it, they're up 9 points with around 9.5 minutes left in this game. They're up 2 possessions, and I think that really dramatically increases their chances of winning this game. And let's say they go for 2 and they don't get it. They're still up 7 points. And because they kicked an extra point, they were up 8, and the Eagles ended up scoring after this, and they went for 2. But I believe that if the Chiefs were only up by 7, the Eagles do not go for 2 on their following touchdown. I think on the following touchdown, I think the Eagles would have just kicked the extra point if they were down by 7. So I think there was really limited downsizing. I can't speak. I think there was really limited downside to going for 2 there, and I think the upside was so great. And I think this is an edge that coaches can have if they're more aggressive in these situations. And I think in the coming years, coaches will be more aggressive in these situations where they can go, like when they're up by 7, can go for 2 to go up 9. I think in the following years that coaches will start going for 2 more. And I think coaches should explore that and should explore whether or not that gives them an advantage. And in my opinion, it does. So that was just a cool thing or a cool detail I saw on Twitter, or a cool suggestion that I thought was actually really smart. And I'm super, whenever coaches have a 4th down, I'm always go for it. Or whenever coaches are thinking about going for 2, I'm always yeah, go for 2. And I didn't even think about that in this situation. So shout out to whoever was talking about that on Twitter. Really smart, and really nice pickup there. So after that, the Eagles had the ball with around 9.5 minutes left in this game, and they drove down the field, had a long drive, and they scored with around 5 minutes remaining in this game. Went for two and got it to tie the game 35-35. And this gave the Chiefs 5 minutes left to go down the field and score. And the Chiefs drove down the field, had a long drive. They got into the Eagles' territory. And they had a play. I can't remember if it was third down or not. It may have been second down. I can't really remember. But the Chiefs threw the ball. They targeted Juju Smith-Schuster, who was covered by, or being defended by, what's his name? I'm forgetting his name. Let me pull it up. Who's the corner? I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. James Bradberry. He was being covered by James Bradberry. And James Bradberry was physical, grabbed the jersey a little bit, and they threw a flag called holding. And at the time, I didn't like the call. And honestly, I still don't love it. I think that, and it's such a big deal because it gave the Chiefs a first down, allowed them to run the clock down, and kick an extra point with just 11 seconds remaining in this game. To go up 38-35, and that essentially sealed the ball game. I don't like this call because I didn't think that the tugging of the jersey disrupted Juju Smith-Schuster's route enough for it to be called. I always favor aggressive play when it comes to wide receiver quarterback matchups, and for a call to be made like that in any situation, I think the disruption of the route needed to be more blatant than it was. And so that's why I didn't love the call. I get it. I get why the call was made. I don't think it was a bad call. I think I did call it an objectively bad call on Twitter. That was just me reacting in the moment. It really wasn't a bad call. I just would have preferred the refs to hold on to the flag and let the game play out, just because that's how I want receiver quarterback play to be. Like, that's how I want receiver quarterback matchups to play out. I want it to be more physical, and I want physicality to be allowed there. But I do see why officials made the call. And then James Bradberry himself said after the game that he did hold Juju and that it was the right call. So, I think it's fine. And I don't think the Eagles got screwed. The Eagles did not get screwed. I think the Eagles should be more mad at some other things, like the team allowing 6.1 yards per carry for the whole game. And I think they should be mad that their defense gave up 17 points in the fourth quarter alone. Those are bigger reasons for the Eagles losing. Not to mention, the Jalen Hurts' fumble, which led to a scoop and score. Those three issues were way bigger than this call. So I don't think the Eagles got screwed. I didn't love the call. I still don't love the call now. But I get it, and I don't think it was a bad call. It was just a personal preference for me. And then the Eagles did get one last possession, and it was really weird. So the Chiefs, they had a squib kick on a kickoff. The Eagles were able to return it a few yards. And when they went down, 2 seconds ran off the clock, giving them 4 seconds remaining in the game. But then they lined up to take the snap, and 2 seconds were added. But I don't know if the Eagles knew that. So they went for a Hail Mary right then and there, when honestly they should have gone for a quick out route to gain some yards, get out of bounds, and then set up a nice Hail Mary. But instead they had to settle for a Hail Mary on the 35-yard line, maybe the 40-yard line. I can't really remember specifically where they were. And then Jalen Hurts was only able to throw it about 35 yards. I don't know what happened on that play. Don't know why the throw was so short. But yeah, and that's how the game ended. So big win for the Chiefs. This was an awesome game. I thought the second half was fantastic. Andy Reid, I want to start out with Andy Reid. I want to give a huge shout out to him. He was cooking in the second half. His play design, in the red zone was fantastic. There was about 2 or 3 plays in the red zone in this game where he got his receivers wide open, like wide open with no one even near them. And that was able to generate some very easy touchdowns for the Chiefs in the red zone. So shout out to Andy Reid. His play calling was great. And, honestly, his play calling was great all night because they only punted a few times. I'm not sure the specific number. They did have a 4th and 3 in the first half where they ended up kicking a field goal that they missed. And I thought the Chiefs should have been more aggressive there and should have thought about going for it. But other than that, I thought Andy Reid's decision making was really good in this game. Thought the play design was awesome, especially in the red zone. So shout out to him. Now I gotta talk about Patrick Mahomes. Man, every time I watch Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, I'm just blown away by how good he was. I know his numbers weren't that impressive because he only had 182 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 6.7 yards per attempt. The numbers weren't out of this world good. Part of that is because the Eagles were dominating time of possession in the first half. But Patrick Mahomes had basically a flawless performance. Sorry, I had to get a quick drink. I think that Patrick Mahomes really had a perfect performance in this game. There was only one play in this that I can remember that I thought was a bad decision. And that was a play, I can't remember if it was in the first half or the second half, but there was a play where the Chiefs had a 3rd down. And they ran a little trick play where they try to run a little, throw a little shovel pass to a receiver running a short little curl. And the receiver fell down, and Mahomes made a bad decision, shoveled the ball in, and it hit a defender in the chest. It was almost an interception. But other than that, Patrick Mahomes didn't really make any other bad decisions, honestly. He didn't take that many sacks. I don't know if he took any sacks. Let me look. Yeah, he didn't take a single sack. There was only one turnover-worthy play that I can remember seeing. His accuracy was on point. He didn't generate a lot of big throws down the field, but that's because the Chiefs' game plan didn't require that. They were getting the ball out quickly, hitting a lot of short passes, trying to minimize the pressure that Patrick Mahomes faced in that game. And that was important because Patrick Mahomes was dealing with a high ankle sprain. But yeah, Mahomes was awesome in this game. Played basically a perfect game, other than that one bad decision that he made on that play I mentioned earlier. He was awesome. He had that big run late in the game to put the Chiefs deep into the Eagles' territory. That was awesome. And that was really impressive considering his injury. And I'm so amazed by how well he continues to play in the playoffs, and how well he played in this postseason with his ankle injury. It didn't really affect him in this game. He was still awesome, made a lot of big throws. So shout out to Mahomes. He was awesome. He ended up winning the Super Bowl MVP, giving him his second Super Bowl ring and his second Super Bowl MVP. So shout out to him. Before I get into his legacy, I do want to talk about some other players that played well in this game. Got to give a huge shout out to the Chiefs offensive line and Isaiah Pacheco, or Pacheco. Is it Pacheco or Pacheco? I think it's Pacheco. But the Chiefs offensive line was awesome in this game. The Eagles have a dominant front seven that does a great job of generating pressure, and the Chiefs offensive line just shut them down. I thought the Chiefs offensive line was awesome in pass protection, awesome in the run game, and Isaiah Pacheco was great as a runner in this game. He was super productive, and he was great, but I think a huge reason why their run game was so good is because of the Chiefs' offensive line opening up gaps. They were so dominant in the run game, and I thought that was super impressive and was a big part in the Chiefs' success offensively in the second half. So shout out to the offensive line, and shout out to Isaiah Pacheco. I also got to give a huge shout out to Nick Bolton, the linebacker. He was awesome all night long. I think he led the Chiefs in tackles. Let me look real quick. Yeah, he led the Chiefs in tackles. He had that scoop and score on the Jalen Hurts fumble. He was so good as a run defender in this game. So huge shout out to him. I honestly thought he had a solid argument to be the Super Bowl MVP. I thought he was awesome in this game. So got to give a huge shout out to him. He was great. And then a huge shout out to Kadarius Toney. He had so many impactful plays. He had a huge punt return late in the second half. He caught a touchdown. And those two plays were huge in the Chiefs' second half comeback. Did anybody else really have any big time plays? Not that I know of. I mean, Travis Kelce was great in this game as well. He played really well. He was open all the time. So shout out to him. Now, yeah, let me talk about Jalen Hurts. I gotta talk about Jalen Hurts because, man, he played so well in this game. I was really, really impressed by him. I was worried about him going into this game because, to be completely honest, he had not been asked to do a whole lot in the playoffs up to this point. And so I wondered, how well was he going to perform on the biggest stage in the Super Bowl, in a game where he was probably going to be asked to do a lot, playing in a high-level offense like the Chiefs. And I thought he, responded so well to the challenge. He made so many high-level throws. His running was great in this game. He was so effective on quarterback sneaks. He wasn't perfect, and I don't think he was better than Mahomes, because there were some plays where the decision-making wasn't great. He had that one long bomb to A.J. Brown, which I don't think was a good decision, and then he had a few iffy decisions. He had that fumble, which led to a scoop and score, and he had a few other turnover-worthy plays. So I don't think he was perfect, but he still made a lot of high-level throws, a lot of elite throws into tight windows. I thought he was really, really impressive in this game. Thought he played so well, and what a season he's had. He played at an MVP level in the regular season. He's been performing really well as a passer, and the growth that he has shown as a passer over the last 2 years has been incredible. And he deserves a ton of praise for that. So shout out to Jalen Hurts. He had an incredible season, helped make the Eagles one of the most dominant rushing attacks in the NFL, showed tremendous growth as a passer, was a strong MVP candidate this year. And I'm not saying that just because he was a finalist. No, he legitimately played at an MVP level this year. So shout out to him. He played well this season and had an incredible performance in the Super Bowl. Alright, now let's talk about Patrick Mahomes' legacy. Because now he has 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and 2 MVPs. And the only players since the merger in 1970 to make 2 All-Pro first teams, to make 2 All-Pro teams and win 2 Super Bowls within their first 6 seasons is Patrick Mahomes. He's the only quarterback to ever do that. And so I think it is pretty clear that Patrick Mahomes is on pace to be the GOAT. I think that is clear as day. He's accomplished everything you could ask of him this early in his career. He has the MVPs. He has multiple MVPs, multiple Super Bowl rings, multiple All-Pro team selections. The production is off the charts. Just watching him play, he's great. The eye test is awesome. The film, flawless. The film is so good. So I think it's pretty clear that he is on pace to be the GOAT one day. I don't think he's the GOAT yet. Obviously, it's pretty early for that conversation, in my opinion. But I think that Mahomes is clearly a top 10 quarterback all time. And I think there's a case to be made that he is a top 5 quarterback all time. Now, I've seen some people say that Patrick Mahomes is a top 5 quarterback all time. I'm not quite sure I agree with that. I'm not saying I disagree. I don't really have a strong stance in this conversation. But I think he has a conversation. I think he has an argument. I think he has a case. Because I get that he doesn't have all the rings. I get that. But I don't really care about about that too much in regards to football because winning championships in football is so team dependent. You have to get lucky with your team situation, with your coach, the coaches that you're coached by, the teammates you're playing with, and in the playoffs, you have to get lucky. Like to get 7 championships like Tom Brady did, or like Tom Brady has. I guess yeah, like Tom Brady did because he just retired. To get 7 Super Bowls like Tom Brady did, you do have to get lucky. And I'm not saying that Tom Brady's like I'm not. That's not a big statement on Tom Brady's career. I'm not trying to downplay what he accomplished. I'm just, it's a fact. You do have to get a bit lucky to win that much. It's really, really hard to win in the NFL. So I don't really care about, I don't do ring counting when it comes to like comparing legacies and comparing all-time great players. But I do care about a player's ability, or for quarterbacks specifically, I do care about quarterbacks' ability to lead their teams to championships, or to lead their teams to deep playoff runs and to perform in the playoffs. And Mahomes has shown the ability to do that. He's been awesome in the playoffs. He has led his teams to Super Bowls multiple times. So I think that's not an issue for him. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the production is off the charts in the regular season. He is an elite regular season player. He's good. He's awesome in the playoffs as well. He has the accolades in terms of MVPs and all pro team selections. The only thing that Mahomes needs now is longevity. He just has to replicate this kind of performance for like over 10 years. And once he does that, like, I think he will clearly be in the GOAT conversation. But right now, like, I mean, why can't he be a top 5 quarterback? That's what I want to know. I'm not sure that he is a top 5 quarterback, but I do feel comfortable saying that he definitely has a case. The numbers are great. Watching him play, like, I think he is the most talented quarterback to ever play the game of football. I think just in terms of, I hate saying eye test, but just like watching him play, I think he's so efficient. He's such a good decision maker. The mobility, the ability to play within structure and out of structure, the ability to play under pressure, and the arm strength, like the entire package is unlike anything we've ever seen, in my opinion. And I think because of that, like, I think that's an advantage that he has over other quarterbacks. Like, I know he doesn't have the longevity, but the early career success along with the eye test, I think does give him a pretty strong case. But yeah, I'd love to hear what y'all have to say. If you're listening to the podcast, like, I'd love to hear what y'all have to say in regards to Patrick Mahomes' legacy. Hit me up on Twitter or Instagram at the Ryan McCrary. That's the RyanMCCRary. Let me know what y'all think. I'd love to hear what y'all have to say. But yeah, that's all I have to say in regards to this game. I do want to talk about the commercials. I honestly didn't think the commercials were very good. There were only a few that I can remember that were pretty good, and that was like, I like the Breaking Bad commercial. That was pretty good. I forgot what it was, a chip commercial. I forgot what company, but that was pretty good. I liked the Bud Light commercial with Miles Teller, and his girlfriend, maybe his wife. I'm pretty sure that's just his girlfriend. Maybe it's his fiance. But that was good. What else? I liked the commercial about women's football or women's flag football. That one was pretty good. I enjoyed that one. The one commercial from Tubi, which made everyone think that someone had touched the remote, that one was awesome. And I remember actually getting upset watching the game. I was like, all right, who touched the remote? And I saw a lot of people talking about that commercial on Twitter. That one was good. That was pretty funny. That was smart and clever. Other than that, though, there were a lot of commercials that I enjoyed. I did see one movie trailer that I'm intrigued or interested in, and that was Air, which is the movie about Nike and Michael Jordan and how Nike was able to sign Michael Jordan. That movie looks super interesting, and I can't wait to see that. That looks really, really good. It's got Ben Affleck, Viola Davis, Matt Damon, Jason Bateman. So I'm really, really excited about that movie. Can't wait to see it. But yeah, didn't love all the commercials. There were some that I thought were fun, were funny and cool, but not a lot. I thought the Super Bowl commercial game was a little bit weak this year. But yeah, that's all I have to say today. That's all I got for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope y'all enjoyed the Super Bowl. I had a lot of fun watching it, and I hope y'all did as well. But yeah, if you want to see more content from me, you can check out my website at thewiresports.com. You can check out my YouTube channel at The Wire. We also have a TikTok page. And then you can follow me on social media. I told you my my Instagram and Twitter handles earlier. Y'all can check that out. I'm always talking about sports on Twitter. So yeah, but I hope y'all enjoyed this episode, and I will see y'all next time. Peace.